And good morning there, gamers of every stripe. This is Temierus here, and today I'm really just gonna kind of ramble on a little bit about how I'm feeling about this Monster Hunter World PC port that came out. Overall, I can say right out I'm enjoying it, but it's got some flaws into it. We'll start off, because this will probably get some people that are curious about the game and haven't looked into it, just turn away right now. Monster Hunter World does use the Denuvo DRM, so if you're boycotting Denuvo, there you go. Don't really need to know much more about the game because you're not going to buy it now because Denuvo boycotts. I'm not judging you for it or anything. Not at all. I realize my tone may be misleading. I'm really not. But Denuvo's there. So, a couple things to preface for those of you that are still sticking around. First off, I am not some ultra Monster Hunter aficionado that follows every single series in the game, or game in the series. That was a nice little flip, wasn't it? My past experiences are, there was Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii, and then the one on the DS, or the 3DS, I think it was 4 Ultimate? I think that was it. That sounds right. It sounds like that was the right one. So those are the two previous Monster Hunters I tried to play, and Tri was all right, but the motion controls started to get a little old and kind of lost me after a while. And 4 Ultimate just had the problem that I personally have with things being on handheld. Is the handhelds are great. I love having DSs and Game Boys and all that, but as I've gotten older, I just stick with them less and less because I can't ever be in a comfortable position playing that, so that kind of dropped out just by the sheer fact of what platform it was on. Second off, the footage that's running back here, this is not the game running at top notch. Though I have a GPU that should be able to handle it, there's optimization issues out there, and there's a lot of people pointing out that there's optimization issues out there. In fact, like, remember Eurogamer was a place I went to try and figure out a better way to get this thing running, and they're even pointing out, it's like, yeah, you pretty much have to start taking it below console on a freaking 1070, which is just ridiculous. Thankfully, this is about the time I was going to be upgrading CPU anyway, along with new motherboard, the two oldest parts in the current setup I have, so it's about time that they get upgraded. So hopefully after I do that, it'll run a bit smoother. Right out of the gate with Monster Hunter World, it will take no time to remind you that, hey, this is an online game. We got lots of online going. Hey, you can play online, have a lot of people in there. Partly with the fact that when you boot the game up, it's immediately, no, you have to be in an online session. You gotta be doing online. You can set it to private so other people can't jump in, which is a little awkward. That we've been finding is, even though the private session says, oh yeah, when you're in a private session, only people that you directly invite can come join in, that doesn't seem to work. It seems to be that if you are in a private session, it does not matter what you do, no one will be able to join. It doesn't matter if you've invited them or anything, they'll be unable to join. Kind of weird, but maybe it'll be fixed at some point. I think somebody actually had to make a mod to fix that and some of these optimization issues. It's the performance is the big optimization problem. I mean, I have to have this thing down on like mid-tier settings just to keep it running smooth, but when it's an online-based game, I quite often run below settings I could technically handle anyway, just because I'd rather it run smooth when it's online than look good. Control-wise, it still supports controller. Surprisingly, I haven't tried controller yet. I don't really know why, especially because I usually like to try both available control schemes. And I know in other games that people cannot understand why I'm like this on PC, like the ones come top of my head, the Fallouts, Elder Scrolls games. I personally prefer playing them on a controller even though I'm on PC. And that baffles a lot of people, but that's just what I prefer. So I'm really shocked that I haven't tried a controller out there. Maybe I'll prefer it on this. But I've just been playing the mouse and keyboard controls, partly because compared to the other Monster Hunters I've played, the bow gun, which all the footage I had captured here, because it's the weapon I've just been playing almost exclusively now, is actually playable. It's actually playable in this one. The last two, it controlled like garbage in my opinion. And if you guys were able to manage to run those weapons on those particular titles on those systems, I commend you. That is an achievement in my books, and that is a skill I will never ever be able to attain, so that is definitely something you have over me. But mouse and keyboard, bowgun's actually playable, and I'm really enjoying that aspect, just the sheer aspect that I can do that, because typically when we group up and play these kind of multiplayer group up with your friends games, I often end up in the more range kind of supporty situation. So it's good to know that what I typically end up leaning on in games where we all group up, I can actually do in this one, which was always a little bit upsetting in the previous titles, just a little bit. Some issues still with that online matchmaking is it took a while until we were finally able to be synced up to actually hunt some monsters together. And one of the big issues is something I don't understand why it's actually in the game, because other games can deal with it just fine. I don't know why Monster Hunter can't. But if you go in and you're going to try and play a story mission, and you got friends online, and you want to play with your friends, because it's really wanting to tote that aspect of, hey, group up with your friends and have fun that way. If you try and play a story mission and they try to join you, they'll not be able to join. The session will have a message on there that says, yeah, you can't join because the host hasn't watched all of the cutscenes yet. Yeah, I don't get why that is a restriction. I don't think it'd be that difficult to have it put in that, well, the host is the one doing the story missions, because I say this because I've seen games do this. The host is the one playing the story mission. The friends are there. The friends are there playing the game, but whenever you get to the cinematics, it's just the host cinematics. The friends are just there for they're there to play with the friends. They're not involved in the story. The story of the game is just totally unawares of them, and that's fine, because that's not really why they're there. They're there just to fight big old monsters of death and have a good time. You can eventually get your friends in after you've gone through the cutscenes and gives you an announcement, oh, you can fire off an SOS flare. But one issue with the SOS flare is when you shoot it off, it doesn't shoot it off and say, okay, now your friends can jump in and join. It's you shoot it off, you've opened up to the entire internet to come jump in and join your game. And since there's only 3 slots for players, it's possible you could get random people in on your game rather than the friends that you originally wanted to play with. And I've already stated, you can't just make a private session and be there with your friends, because if you make a private session, no one can join you ever. Maybe it's a bug and they'll fix it. I kind of hope so, because as it is right now, it's not hugely frustrating, but it's just annoying enough to be bothered by it. I have noticed some weird things, control scheme wise, about how the buttons are kind of all over the place and are controlling separate actions that they really could have been condensed down on one. Most prime example I can use is when you're running around and your weapon's on your back, you hit the control key, which is also an attack button, despite the fact that left click will also do the exact same attack function. Use the control key to pull your weapon out, which you would almost think, okay, that's the sheath unsheath button. No, it's the unsheath and attack button. The sheath button is shift. And there's been a few times where I whip out, kill a couple of the little monsters, and then just, I'll go harvest some materials off of them, which you can't do with your weapon out. And then when I go over to do it, I end up shooting some of the more advanced ammo, which is annoying because it can only be crafted or bought. So it's annoying to have to lose that. And it just leads into a bunch of, well, god damn it. I'm sure maybe I could remap it. I haven't messed around with remapping it. I hope I can remap it. So, unfortunately, I don't have much to say about whether you can remap or not. I know I've seen some people say about the remaps aren't working correctly or something, but the way that some of those reviews were acting, I don't know if that's actually true or if people are just being sore. It's hard to tell sometimes on those Steam reviews. Now, there's definitely some good, and it's more than just I can actually finally play with a weapon. One of the huge improvements that I've seen is just flat out quality of life improvements. So now it's because in Monster Hunter, when you picked up herbs, you could, or herbs, depending on where you live, when you pick those up, they sit in your inventory, they're a crafting item, and then you craft them down to your potion to recover your health. What's really nice now, there's a button you can actually click on your crafting menu on, say, potion, and it'll be, okay, as soon as you go over and you pick up herbs, it checks, are your potions at max? If your potions aren't max, it'll automatically make them into potions for you. That's great. That's really great that there's items in there I can just set up as soon as I pick up the items for the inventory. If I'm not full on it, just make it, because that's probably why I picked up those items in the first place. As somebody playing a bow gun, it's very, very nice that the ammo for your bow gun no longer takes up your general inventory space. You now have your general inventory space where you carry all your healing items and your food items and the random materials that you pick up while you're out on a hunt. That is now separate from your ammo. You now have a second little bag that you put all of your ammo in, or your coatings if you're a weapon that uses coatings, and there might be another item that can be put in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just bullets and coatings go into that. And then your regular items are separate. You also no longer have to actually carry around items to harvest material. So one thing I always found annoying is you had to fill up your inventory space with pickaxes to go mine things. But if you're picking up too many items, you're going to run out of space because you have to haul around the pickaxes, and then you have to start making choices what you can carry. You don't have to carry pickaxes anymore. As soon as you see a mining outcrop, you can just go over there and you just whip out the pickaxe that you would obviously have had and just gather it. No longer takes up space. Freaking awesome. Bugs are just lying out on the ground, so you don't have to carry around a bug net, find a nest, and just start catching some bugs, which then also leads to the thing of your bug net will just start breaking for no reason. I know a bug net can break, but the frequency at which those things break in that game are just nonsensical. Tangenting off of this, one of the big things that frustrated the hell out of me on the last two Monster Hunters, and I think part of the reason why I started falling off from them, is the grind. Oh my god, those grinds got on my nerves to an nth degree sometimes, because there were too many times where it's, I need this one specific item. How do I get that specific item? I don't know, the game doesn't tell me. Go online. Oh, well, if you want that one specific item, you have to hunt this one specific monster, and then you have to make sure that you break a specific part on it. And then, of course, when I'm finding this out, I'm later in the game, so going back and trying to break the item without just killing the stupid thing was an extreme hassle because I was doing too much damage to it. And it could be argued I could have just gotten a lesser grade weapon, but I wasn't going to mess around with that. By the time I would have started to mess around with that, I finally got lucky and found it. But anyway, it was you break a part of a monster, which then gives like a 1% chance or something stupidly small that when you got done with your mission, it would show up in your quest rewards for having hunted the monster. And then there were specific items. It was like, oh, well, you can only get it if you catch it. And it's like, I understand why the catching mechanic is in the game, and it does add variation to it. But I mean, personally, I'd like just putting it up and I'm just gonna fight the monster. I don't have to worry about, oh no, I've done too much to it now. Now I have to try and set up these traps and try and make them do it. That was just a hassle. Like I said, I understand why it's there, and I honestly really don't have that much of a problem that it's there. I just wasn't having fun doing it, and that's what turned into a problem for me, is I just didn't enjoy having to do that mechanic. So I would have to do a mechanic I didn't enjoy for very slim chances to get a one item, which is even more disheartening in the fact that I need 2 of that item, and it will only ever drop 1 when you get that one chance to get it. So then it turns into, well, I wanted my character to look this way, but this is way too much of a this is not worth it. And a game like this, for me, form is as much of a factor as function. Gotta have a character that's gonna look good with the equipment. As much as you need equipment, it's gonna work. Actually, there's a lot of times in Monster Hunter I'm just like, I'll just take the equipment that's gonna look good, and it'll have alright stats. I'll drill fighting monsters and just get good at dodging, so I don't have to worry about the defenses and resistances and all that stuff. That was just kind of how I leaned in on it. Overall, I really do feel like this is an alright game. I mean, I'm actually enjoying playing it, partly because I can actually finally play a weapon that I'm liking, and is kind of more suiting on how I would approach wanting to fight a giant monster of death, which is standing still is a horrible idea, and I'd honestly rather not be up in its face, seeing as how it uses its mouth to kill things and eat them, and I'd rather not be killed nor eaten. So that's a factor. But it still has some difficulties it's got to overcome, mainly in the optimization on how it's using the resources, and the online functionality. When it works, but trying to get it to work is sometimes a hassle, and it also has a tendency to not want to work regardless. Biggest thing being, if you try to group up with just friends, that's not really something that can be done too well. But you know what? Bowgun's finally playable. That's nice. Okay, I enjoy doing that way too much, but I don't care.